You know that sound? That beautiful shimmering pitch modulation? The kind that makes a guitar really sing, or an organ swell, or even just gives a voice this life.
Yeah, vibrato. It's everywhere in music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we hear it so often, we probably take it completely for granted. But have you ever stopped to think how we actually got this iconic effect?
Mm-hmm.
Because, it wasn't always just hitting a button or flicking a switch.
Not all.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into that quest, the whole fascinating story behind electronic vibrato.
Huh.
We'll explore the ingenious minds and maybe even some surprising discoveries that shaped how it all evolved.
And what's really interesting, I think, is how the actual definition of vibrato changed as the technology got better. You know, how engineers and musicians were constantly chasing this sonic idea.
Right.
We're going to trace, over 80 years of that, looking at different articles, research, technical histories, basically piecing together the story.
Okay, so our mission today is to kind of distill the key moments, the milestones, from those really early, maybe accidental discoveries, right up to the super sophisticated digital stuff we have now.
Yeah, give you the shortcut, basically, those aha moments without getting totally bogged down in schematics.
Perfect. All right, let's dive in. Where does this story really kick off?
Well, you got to go back to 1934, the Hammond Model A electric organ.
The Hammond A. Okay, groundbreaking instrument.
Totally. And it introduced something called a tremulant circuit. Now, this was motor-driven.
Motor-driven.
Yeah, and it essentially worked by shunting the audio signal to ground, off and on, which produced, a volume wobble. Tremolo, basically.
Okay, so a volume change, like turning the volume knob up and down really fast.
Very much.
But crucially, that wasn't true vibrato, was it? Not pitch change.
Exactly. And that's a really important point to make right at the start. This was amplitude modulation, volume change, not pitch alteration. The note itself wasn't changing.
Right.
So while it definitely added some movement, some shimmer to the sound, the real challenge was, okay, how do we make the pitch warble? That was the hurdle.
Okay, so as it wasn't pitch, who cracked that first?
This is where it gets really interesting, actually. Enter Don Leslie, late 1930s. He was a radio repairman, apparently wasn't satisfied with the Hammond's built-in tremulant.
He wanted the real deal.
He wanted true vibrato, and he hit upon this brilliant idea using something we all know from, physics class. The Doppler effect.
Doppler effect, seriously. Like the ambulance siren sound-changing pitch as it goes past.
It's precisely that principle. Leslie's method was, honestly, ingenious in its simplicity. He physically rotated a speaker horn.
Wow, okay. He spun the speaker.
He spun the speaker. Imagine those sound waves literally getting compressed and stretched as the horn moved towards and away from you.
That makes sense.
And that setup later refined into his famous cabinets with the rotating treble horn and a separate rotating baffle for the bass speaker. It produced both frequency modulation, which is your true pitch vibrato, it's an amplitude modulation, the tremolo effect, just due to the speaker's changing position and direction. So this Leslie speaker system, that was effectively the first practical electronic vibrato.
Achieved through physics, not just circuits. That's pretty cool.
Totally. Pure, clever physics.
Okay, so Leslie nails true pitch modulation for organs using rotating speakers. How long does it take for that idea, or at least the desire for pitch shifting, to jump over to guitar amps? Because that's where most of us probably hear vibrato today.
Yeah, good question. Well, once the concept was out there that you could modulate pitch electronically or electromechanically, guitarists wanted in. It took a little bit, but in 1947, Nathan Daniels' company, Dane Electro,
Yeah.
they introduced the first guitar amp with a built-in system specifically advertised to modulate pitch. They called it the Vibrato System for Amplifiers.
The first one for a guitar.
Yep. Although, interestingly, even their early ads still kind of hedged their bets, you know? They often called it tremolo or vibrato.
So the terminology was still a bit fuzzy even then.
Exactly. Shows you that the distinction we make so clearly now wasn't always common knowledge, even among manufacturers.
So Dane Electro opened the door in 47. Did others follow quickly?
Oh, yeah. Once that door was open, others jumped right in. Premier had their 66 tremolo amp, also out in 1947.
Same year?
Yep. And Gibson wasn't far behind with their GA50T in 1948, both marketing these built-in vibrato tremolo circuits. And then, Fender eventually got in the game with the Tremolux in 1955.
Right. Fender always seemed to perfect things a bit later sometimes.
Well, they definitely put their stamp on it. But For a really significant leap in the quality and type of vibrato in an amp circuit, we need to talk about Magnatone.
Magnatone. Okay,
Yeah.
what was special about their approach?
Magnatone made a really big contribution starting around 1957. This was thanks to Don Bonham and his patent for a varistor-based phase splitter circuit.
Okay, hold on. Varistor, phase splitter. Break that down a bit.
Right, sorry. So a varistor, think of it like a special resistor. Its resistance changes depending on the voltage going through it. Bonham figured out how to use these varistors to very precisely shift the phase of the audio signal.
And shifting the phase creates.
True frequency modulation, that genuine pitch wobble we associate with vibrato. Magnatone's circuit could do this in a really smooth, almost liquid way compared to some of the earlier, maybe choppier tremolo circuits.
Ah, so a more sophisticated, maybe more musical pitch change.
Definitely. It really shows this dedicated push technologically to nail that specific pitch wobble sound. They weren't just settling for volume changes anymore, and they kept refining it. By 1964, their stereo custom M14 amp, man, that thing was complex.
Stereo vibrato.
Yeah, it used like 3 tubes and 8 varistors just for the vibrato circuit, driving 2 speakers in and out of phase with each other.
Wow.
The result was described as this incredibly lush, program-dependent vibrato, meaning it responded dynamically to how you played. That was really the pinnacle of amp-based vibrato at the time.
Okay, so while all this cool amp circuit innovation is happening with varistors and phase splitting, there's a whole other track developing, right? Something more mechanical.
Absolutely. Because sometimes the player just wants direct control right there on the instrument. Forget the amp settings for a second.
Yeah, like I want to bend this note now.
Exactly. And that leads us to a completely different approach, one that bypassed electronics altogether initially. In 1951, Paul Bigsby invented the first, what we'd recognize as the modern whammy bar vibrato tailpiece.
From Merle Travis, wasn't it?
That's the one, for Merle Travis's custom guitar.
So how did that work? No tubes, no varistors.
Nope, pure mechanics. Elegantly simple, really. It used a spring-loaded roller bar that the strings passed over. You move the arm, it pivots the bar, changes the tension on all the strings simultaneously.
And changes the pick.
And changes the pitch. Up or down. Instant, tactile pitch control right under your hand.
And that design just took off, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Variations of that Bigsby design and later Fender's Stratocaster tremolo system became totally ubiquitous. You saw them on hollow bodies, solid bodies, guitars all over the world.
It really highlights that the quest wasn't just about the sound of vibrato, but also about how players could interact with it, how they could express themselves.
Perfectly put. 2 parallel paths. Refining the electronic effect in the amp and inventing mechanical ways to control pitch directly on the guitar.
Okay, so we've got amp vibrato getting sophisticated and mechanical whammy bars giving players direct control. Where does the story go next? Things start getting smaller, right? Portable.
Exactly. The next big leap is taking these effects out of the amp or off the guitar's hardware and putting them into a standalone box, a pedal. This really starts happening in the late 60s.
Enter the stomp box era.
Pretty much. And a key player here was a Japanese company called Honey, which later became Shinai. They developed this cool circuit using transistors for phase shifting.
Phase shifting again, like the Magnatone?
Similar concept, yeah, but using transistors instead of varistors. And it was driven by a little photocell and a filament lamp combo, kind of an opto circuit. It first showed up in a console unit called the Vibra Chorus in 1968. But the real game changer was when Shinai repackaged that circuit into a pedal in 1969.
And that pedal was?
The legendary Univibe.
Ah, the Univibe. Hendrix Trower. That sound.
That's the one. It gave guitarists, for the first time really, a portable pedal that could create that lush, swirling, Leslie speaker-style pitch modulation.
So it democratized that sound, in a way. You didn't need a huge rotating speaker cabinet anyway.
Precisely. It was huge. Suddenly you could get that vibe, literally, just by plugging in this relatively compact box. It opened up so many creative doors for players on stage and in the studio.
Okay, the Univibe sets the stage for portable pitch modulation. Was it the only game in town for vibrato pedals for a while?
Well, it was hugely influential, but other designs followed. Fast forward a bit to 1982, and Boss enters the dedicated vibrato pedal market with the VB2.
The Boss VB2. Another classic, right? But different from the Univibe.
Very different, yeah. The VB2 used what's called a BBD chip.
BBB.
Bucket Brigade device. It's an analog chip, kind of like a tiny electronic conveyor belt for the audio signal. It delays the signal in stages, which allows you to create effects like chorus, flanger, and crucially for us, true pitch-shifted vibrato.
So a different technology inside, creating a different flavor of vibrato.
Exactly. The VB2 had controls for rate, depth, and even rise time, how quickly the effect comes in. It produced this really distinct, smooth, warbling pitch shift. Pure vibrato, no chorus mixed in like the Univibe often had.
And it became a bit of a cult classic, didn't it?
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't made for very long.
That's right. Only produced for about a year, 82 to 83. But players loved its unique sound, that specific warble. So yeah, it became super coveted on the used market for decades.
Okay, so we've journeyed from spinning speakers and complex tube circuits to iconic pedals like the Univibe and the VB2. What happens as we move into more recent times, like the 90s and onward?
Well, the innovation definitely didn't stop. We see digital technology really coming into its own, offering new ways to replicate and expand on these classic sounds. But also, a real appreciation for the old analog circuits remains strong.
A bit of both worlds.
Exactly. So, for example, in 2011, TC Electronic released the Shaker Vibrato.
The TC Shaker, okay.
Digital.
Yep, a compact digital pedal. But it was praised for getting really close to that smooth Leslie-style warble. Plus, it added modern features like tone controls, rise time, and their tone print technology for loading custom presets. And cool stuff like a latch mode.
So digital trying to capture that analog magic, but with added flexibility.
Right. But then you also see manufacturers going back to the source. Like Boss, in 2015, they released the VB2W, the W standing for Wazacraft.
Ah, the Wazacraft series. They're high-end, usually analog stuff.
Precisely. The VB2W was a faithful analog reissue of the original VB2, using BBDs again. But they added some modern updates, like an expression pedal input to control the depth and an extra mode with a different vibrato waveform. So catering to the purists who wanted that original analog sound back.
Absolutely. It shows there's still huge demand for both approaches, the vintage analog circuits and the flexible digital recreations.
And beyond dedicated pedals, what about those big multi-effects units and modelers that are so popular now? Where does vibrato fit in there?
Oh, it's definitely a standard feature in pretty much all of them. Your Line 6 Helix, the Neural DSP Quad Cortex, Boss GT series, Fractal Axfax, even smaller units like the POD Go. They all include really sophisticated vibrato algorithms.
Often alongside chorus, flanger, favor.
Yeah,
The whole modulation family.
exactly. And this raises a good question. What do these modern units offer that maybe the older pedals couldn't?
Flexibility, I imagine.
Huge flexibility. You get things like tempo syncing the vibrato speed to your song's BPM, full stereo inputs and outputs for massive soundscapes, and incredibly deep editing parameters. You can tweak almost every aspect of the pitch modulation. Wave shape, symmetry, phase relationships, way beyond just rate and depth.
So you can really sculpt the effect in minute detail.
Totally. All within one box that sits on your pedal board or in a rack. It's kind of the culmination of that whole journey, having all these different vibrato flavors and control options available instantly.
Wow. It's quite a journey when you lay it all out.
It really is. So if you think about it, from those early Hammond tremulants that, weren't even changing pitch,
just volume.
to Don Leslie physically spinning speakers with the Doppler effect, then into amps with Magnatone using varistors for that true lush pitch wobble.
And parallel to that, Bigsby giving players the whammy bar for direct mechanical control.
Exactly. Then the pedals arrive, the Univibe, putting that swirling sound in a box for everyone.
Followed by the unique character of the Boss VB2's BBD circuit.
And now, today, you've got boutique analog pedals meticulously recreating those sounds alongside powerful digital modelers that offer almost infinite tweakability. It's over 80 years of chasing this one expressive effect. Constant innovation.
It really is a testament, isn't it, to that persistent human desire to shape sound, to add that little bit of movement, that expressive quality that just makes music feel alive.
Absolutely.
And whether you're after just a subtle singing kind of warble or you want those really extreme dive-bombing pitch swoops from a whammy bar, there's now a circuit or a pedal or a digital model out there that fits exactly what you're hearing in your head.
The options are incredible now.
So maybe the next time you hear that distinctive shimmer or wobble in a song you love, just take a second. Think about the decades of ingenuity, the happy accidents, the sheer persistence that went into crafting that perfect pitch modulation. It's a sound that's really grown up with modern music.
It really has. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it, looking forward? How might future tech, maybe things like AI or completely new ways of physically interacting with instruments or sound, how might that change what we even mean by vibrato in the coming decades?
That's a fascinating thought.
This quest for expressive sound, it feels like it's never really over. It just keeps evolving.